Today I want to talk to you guys about how Bad Boy became my #1 selling brand. So this is a video where I will be focused on Bad Boy and really why I think it became my #1 selling brand, and then also just pull you guys into the storyline of my business, how it fits in with everything and my dealership as a whole, and how it runs. So maybe you're watching this because you're curious about that brand of Bad Boy, or possibly you are on the Bad Boy Lover fan page yourself. You already have a Bad Boy. But like I said, I'm gonna talk about this brand. I'm gonna talk about Mowers. I'm gonna talk about what Bad Boy does with tractors, with their hand tools, all sorts of stuff that I think makes this brand so special. But then just who are we? And if you guys follow us, maybe you're a subscriber, maybe it's your first time watching a different video, we're located here in Jackson, Michigan, and we sell multiple lines of mowers, we sell multiple lines of trailers, we sell tractors because of Bad Boy as well. Full service shop, we got it all going on. So just kind of talking about all of that as a whole, those might be the curiosities that you've got watching this video. So let's start by first just talking about Bad Boy. Why? Why is it a brand that for us, after 2 years, has become that #1 selling brand? And so that's how I titled the video, but really I could have made this after 1 year, it became my #1 selling brand, kind of unexpected. So I've been at this dealership, this location for 4 years. This was a dance studio when I bought this building, and we've completely renovated, redone it, and you wouldn't have a clue by looking at the outside that was ever the case. And when I bought this location, prior to doing this, was buying and selling used equipment, only used equipment. When I bought this, that was the case. I had no brands. And within the first 6 months, I believe, is when I landed Toro, which Toro is on the other side of the showroom. And so it built over time, and it was a year and a half, 2 years into running this dealership that then we settled and said, let's add a second brand, let's add Bad Boy to the mix. And it was last year about this time that I made a similar type of video. I said, after a year of selling Bad Boy, what are my takeaways? And I showed in that video, we signed up with Bad Boy last year and we were rookie dealer across the nation. Bad Boy has 1,100 dealerships or more, I think, at this point, from the last time I mentioned that in this video. And among all the single store, brand new dealerships, we were #1, and so we received this award for that, which was really awesome. And they slapped the title of us being a diamond dealer. And so this year I'm going into it trying to become, an even bigger dealer in the whole Bad Boy thing, because they always give awards at the end of the year. It's such a smart thing, I think, that they do, that they're trying to motivate these dealers, these competitive guys or gals, to be the top dealer in the nation. And I'm thinking, there were 1,100 or so dealers, and how many of them were actually new dealers? I don't know. I don't know if it was 50. I don't know if it was 100, whatever it was. We were #1 out of that list. Well, now I'm competing against 1,100. Out of the 1,100, some are single store dealers, some are multi-location dealers. So we're a single store dealer, and I don't know, out of the 1,100, how many of them are single store dealers? I have to think it's the majority. So now all of a sudden, we're not competing against 50 or 100. Maybe I'm competing with 600 or 700 single store dealers. That's a little bit of a guess. Bad Boy, someone comment how many there are, I don't know. Then they only give awards for the top 10 in the nation. So that's a lot harder to strike that #1 list than just the rookie dealers. So we went to the Bad Boy conference, and I knew it would be a long shot to try to get into that top 10, and we did. We fell just a little bit short. I asked my rep afterwards, we had a great year. Looked in the records, we sold over 250 or so Bad Boys this year from this location. We're sitting on an 1.5 acres of property right here, and he told me among single store dealers, we were 13th. We were close. That's actually way closer than I thought possible. And when you think about what that does for a dealership of my size, it's huge. It's been a huge impact on our business, and the economy ebbs and flows and changes, and we've been in a year of tariffs and a lot of kind of weird stuff. And so for us to have that growth line for Bad Boy, it was really big. And I'm telling a little bit of our storyline right now, what works so well for us and for Bad Boy. Why does Bad Boy sell so well? And I touched on this in the video last year. Maybe some of you guys are considering the brand. This is where you really want to tune in. Like, why is Bad Boy selling so well compared to lots of different brands that are out there in the nation? Fastest growing mower company, constantly grabbing market share. And that's one thing they talked about at our dealer meeting. But I look at a mower like this, I look at the Rambler series, you got a 42-inch mower, and Bad Boy's got these selling features about it. Bad Boy runs a 7-gauge deck on any mower, and then you go to the top end and they got a 3-gauge deck. So they're constantly setting the standard of the best deck thicknesses in the industry, and who doesn't like that? You know, I'm a big guy and I step up on this mower right here, and this is really solid. There's no movement to this entire frame. It's a really big selling feature of Bad Boy, the stoutness. Even on a 42-inch mower, the stoutness that they make their equipment. So what a great testament right at this first level, that I think if you look at a 42-inch mower and you're looking at price points that are under $4,000, it's hard to beat the build quality of Bad Boy. Another thing with Bad Boy is constant innovation in how they're doing things. And it was 2 years ago that we signed up with Bad Boy, and there's just little things that the front of their deck had a flat front, and then they changed it to this slope nose edge. And why did they do that? Number one, it's a better look, but little things like it encapsulating these front wheels, giving it more protection. That's just one small example of things that we're seeing every single year. They used to have a circular arm right here that was not adjustable to move forward or backwards, and I thought it was a little bit behind the times, to be honest. And then all of a sudden they came out with this heavier duty square style tubing that you can adjust forward and backwards. Again, another innovation. And I could go on and on and on about different innovations, and whether it's their Rogue series mower that has rear end suspension off the back, or better yet, let's go to the back of the building, because we just got the 2026 models in. I do have a video where I gave the first impressions when we were out in Orlando. You guys can look at that right there. But we're now getting these 2026 models to land right now. Again, let's talk about what did they innovate this year. And here we are looking at the new 2026 models that we're gonna be rolling out, selling. I've already sold 2 of these ZT Elites. There's a reason why. I've only had these for a week, and a couple of them already popped off the line of the 2026 models. They, again, had only the flat front on this deck, and now it has an angle to it, and they're encapsulating these wheels. So now the whole line kind of has that consistent look, whether you're going into that high-end commercial mower or you go into that 42-inch Rambler that we just talked about before this. But what did they do different on the ZT Elite this year? It was that this seat is newly redesigned. I think that this is a much better material that they're using that's gonna hold up better. But this piece right here, one thing that I think Bad Boy does uniquely when you get to a $6,000 to $7,000 price point is that they're giving you front end suspension. The fact that this is on a pivot point, and what that does is give the front of the machine some protection. This piece right here that I just mentioned used to be an add-on accessory, and if I flip this seat up and we look at it from behind, there are these rubber isolators right here, and if I kind of move the seat back and forth, there's just a little bit more give, a little bit more forgiveness. The prices increased very slightly this year, and it seems like with the economy that would be expected. It's not a big price change, but just a little bit in 2026. This right here alone was around a $300 option. The prices did not increase nearly that much, so they're doing that. They're giving you a nicer seat, they're giving you a better deck, and that just keeps happening across the board. They're constantly making changes. If you look up the company of Bad Boy, who was established in 2002, you would see a company that looks completely different from how it is today. I think there was a lot of boxy designs. I think people that saw the brand between 2002 and 2010 maybe didn't see it as the highest level of competition, you know, as far as mowers that you could get in the industry. There wasn't the best of the best. You know, these guys that started Bad Boy Mowers started an American-made company in Batesville, Arkansas. So there's that rich pride, I think, in the brand of Bad Boy. And how did it keep growing? It kept growing because of innovation, and it definitely kept growing like it is today because of what they do marketing-wise. I see it all the time in the comments where people want to talk about how great their Bad Boy mowers and how much they love it. And then I do see other comments saying, well, they're junk, you know? There's these vastly different opinions, and some of the stuff that I'm pointing out, you cannot argue with the robustness of what it is. And if I go look at their commercial series mowers, if I walk over to their Rebel X, this is definitely a stout machine, and they're doing stuff in here that they simply did not do 5 or 10 years ago that has just really improved build quality across the board. And again, because Bad Boy's known so much so on the innovation front, things that you think are cheap about a Bad Boy, they keep improving year over year over year over year. And we sell tons and tons of mowers, and overwhelmingly our customers absolutely love Bad Boy as a whole. Maybe some of those comments lean a little bit more to the bad boys of the past, that the innovation has come year over year over year. So I challenge you guys to check out what happens every single year with Bad Boy, because the things that they're doing, simply put, continue to improve year after year after year. And again, when we continue that quality conversation, I think about Bad Boy and I think about warranty. Now, regardless of whether you're buying a brand new Bad Boy, a brand new John Deere, Gravely, Toro, whatever it is, we sell multiple lines here. You're gonna have warranty stuff pop up. It just simply is the nature of the beast. These things are outside. There's a manufacturing process. It's the job of the manufacturer to try to have as little warranty claims as possible. And I think if I was a Gravely dealer or a Cub Cadet dealer or something else, I just think you're gonna see around the same amount of warranty claims. And with that, I do see comments every once in a while, people talking about getting a brand that actually supports warranty claims and things like that. The nice thing about Bad Boy is this is a largely growing company, but it does not have that corporate type of feel. When someone has an issue, Bad Boy is absolutely backing that product. And I challenge you that if you've run into a situation where Bad Boy has not, I truly believe that that is not so much a Bad Boy issue. It might be more of a Bad Boy dealer issue. For people that have come to us and we've had to get a claim to go through, and it comes down to, does Bad Boy stand behind it? We have had very little pushback with warranty claims whenever that problem has arisen. And with all the things I'm saying, kind of bragging down on Bad Boy right now, obviously, right, there's bias that I'm a dealer, but I'm trying to explain to you why this has become the #1 brand for me. And of course I'm gonna have bias with that. But the reality is, us as dealers, we wanna sell as much product as we possibly can. And simply put, the people like a Bad Boy, and there's a lot to like about it. And all those things that I just mentioned, all those things, when you compare a Bad Boy and you get into what transmission this has versus a competitor's, you are going to get that typically at a better price point. And you've got a company in Bad Boy that is focused on growth. You have other companies that, if they're more focused on profitability and the efficiency of making as much money as they possibly can, that's a different outlook than where this company is right now. This company is focused on growth, and because of that, they're gonna try to do it at the best value that they possibly can. And so we see that time and time again. You know, I see these mowers that it seems like when I get into the ZT Elite level, or I especially get to these high-end commercial mowers, that you're getting a significantly better price on a Bad Boy. And when you get into some of the things on the Bad Boy, when you're ranging from the $5,000 to $9,000 price point, you're getting a little bit better transmission, you're getting a little bit better price, and you're getting a little bit better ride quality. And then Bad Boy just gives you tons of different engine options. There's a lot of things, you know, that go into that really help this brand sell. So like I said, if you're considering buying a Bad Boy mower, or you're maybe already have one, you're just kind of curious to what's going on with the brand, you know, you're watching that. And besides that, again, I wanted to make this video and talk about, you know, what does it mean for my dealership? You know, I talked about it being the #1 brand that we're selling, and it's just kind of interesting, I think, if you're the consumer, to get that dealer perspective of selling that brand. That's one piece to the equation of what we do around here, and why I think it's fitting into the mold of what we're doing, because we're here in Michigan, as I mentioned. So we're in Jackson, Michigan, and mowers, that's a seasonal business, very seasonal business, and especially seasonal if you live in Michigan or if you live in the Midwest. And so you got the grass around here starting to grow, you know, maybe in that April zone, and it's October now that I'm shooting this video, and the grass will stop then. And of course you can buy mowers year round, but for us, it's one facet of our business. I would say mowers is about 60% of our business, maybe somewhere in there, and maybe 30 to 35% of that business is trailers. And so we sell a lot of dump trailers. You know, we have local brands as well that we're selling. Again, I think of where does Bad Boy fit among that? So you got brands that we sell like Quality Steel and Aluminum, which is more of a Midwest region, Elkhart, Indiana brand. And we sell dump trailers. We sell open utility trailers, locally made, aluminum. And one thing we do is really aggressive pricing on something like this when it's locally made. And then you got enclosed trailers, which is a really rich part of our business. Probably among the trailers, probably the most popular thing we sell is enclosed trailers. And we like selling enclosed trailers here because, again, looking at it from that dealer perspective, you think about how mowers, when we get to this time of the year, are not selling near at the pace, right, as the, you know, when that spring grass is growing. But here you got an enclosed trailer, and a Michigan winter, whether you get heavy snow or whether you get cold rain, whatever it is, these guys will keep equipment out of the weather. And so obviously you just get worse weather when you are in the winter months, and they aren't dependent on snow hitting the ground for me to be able to sell these. And so for us, that's why it becomes such a big part of our business, right? So with these trailers, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to structure this business so I've got kind of security year round, and I got the flow, and I got people making sure that they've got jobs in the off season, things like that. So I mentioned at the start of this video, having this dealership, having this location for 4 years, when I opened this up, no brands at all. So we still do a pretty decent amount of used equipment. And when I started this, I was a high school math teacher. So it was around 7 years ago, probably from this moment, that I was teaching, and I had a wife at home. Kids are starting to pop into the picture, and I'm trying to find a way to make extra income. And I'm constantly on YouTube to try to find my answers. Probably where you're watching this right now. And again, it's constantly going on the internet trying to find out what's the way I can possibly make more income than what a teacher makes. And I sort of settled on real estate investing, and I did tons of research that goes in that. And I got a hammer in my hand, and I've been doing all this research. I'm like, you know what? I've been doing all this research about real estate investing or renovating things. Let's take this hammer to a wall and let's actually renovate this house. And I ended up selling that house after renovating. That house might have made a little bit of money, probably more just from appreciation of the real estate. But it was in selling that house that I then bought a different house where I wanted to do sort of this live-in, flip, and renovation. It was through all this research that it sort of led me to doing that. And in the process of moving to this other house and doing this live-in flip, so to speak, that house ended up making some pretty decent money, I had to sell literally the couches that were in the other house. And one day I'm scrolling along on Craigslist, and the same couch that I had to sell, same style, I should say anyway, I see one for sale for significantly cheaper. I thought and had never done this whole art of buying something on Craigslist or Facebook solely for the purpose of reselling it. To me, it seemed like this golden opportunity. I knew what this couch was worth. It was worth closer to $300, and I saw it for sale for $50. And I'm like, you know what? We're gonna flip something. We're gonna buy and sell some stuff. People talk about it, but I went and I drove over and I picked up this couch. I put it on Facebook. By the end of that day, I had sold it for $300. I make a couple $100. I start buying and selling couches. I start buying and selling washers and dryers. And eventually, without me knowing anything 7 years ago about zero-turn mowers, it leads me to buy a zero-turn mower, in which I buy and sell 30 of them in the summer of teaching 1 year. So all this business starts to sort of stem that way. Instead of me flipping houses, I just start flipping equipment. And so that happens on the side of teaching, to the point where I'm actually making more money than teaching. And I'm thinking, well, if I quit my job, what could this become? So that was 6-7 years ago. And so now, bam, it's just crazy for me make this video because I'm talking about what Bad Boy has done for my business, and it's just been kind of wild. It's been this sort of American dream experience of doing this. I didn't have any experience with equipment, and now I'm really passionate. Someone comes through the door and I know everything there is to know about a lawnmower. So it's been a heck of a journey, and it's fun to be a business owner and go through that growth and try to figure out how to continue to make things grow. I was a high school math teacher, so it's definitely helped to know numbers and understand that side of stuff. And I think it's actually helped me that I wasn't growing up wrenching all the time, because I think you look at a lot of different dealers or kind of these small town mom and pop type shops, and that owner might be in the back working on stuff. And I've had my obsession about trying to figure out how to grow the business, do stuff like this, make YouTube videos, you know, market in that sense. And that's why we pair so well with a company like Bad Boy, which is kind of the reason for starting to make this video. I think it's interesting for you guys to hear that storyline and some of the other things that we do here to understand how this line fits in. You know, and as I continue the journey around the lot here, again, it was kind of this new venture to figure out tractors and that sort of stuff. We have sold a pretty darn good amount of tractors in just the first couple of years as well. And we're typically stocking 8-10 tractors, and I think that number, I plan to make it grow. We have the Bad Boy tractors, and I'm learning that segment as well to be that expert for you guys, you know, as you guys want to know, you know, what that product's all about. And then you got Bad Boy Implements. We just got a shipment in over here. We're putting some of these cutters together. Bad Boy, start to finish, is making their own implements out of Batesville, Arkansas. So Bad Boy's trying to become that holistic brand that got electric tools, gas tools, you know, really doing it all. They want to be that one brand that you can get any sort of outdoor equipment type of product. And that's one thing we really like about Bad Boy. I said that we sold over 250 mowers this past year. And then now we've probably sold 40, 50 tractors in that first year as well, between the couple of years that we've started. And so because they've got a lot of different product lines, that's worked out really well for us as well. I'm kind of meandering, making my way, you know, all around this dealership, talking about how Bad Boy fits into it and all the other things, but it's just been this crazy learning curve journey. We get a big F-350 truck. We also, in this past couple of years of adding enclosed trailers to the mix, get this 50-foot wedge trailer we can hook up to this, and we'll come back with 3 enclosed trailers at a time. So a lot of different facets, again, to think about a dealership as a whole and things that are going on. And then I've kind of working over to this side of the building. We got a full service shop. So sometimes you guys see Jason in the videos, he's working on a Toro back there. We got a trailer we're putting lights on. And so that for me has been a really big learning curve, because I told you guys when I started the business, I am buying and selling, originally thinking I'm gonna do real estate, but then I start buying and selling things. I start buying and selling mowers, and it's the first mower that breaks. It might've been like 10 mowers in, and I bought it, and the next day it didn't run. I've got to call someone up, and I saw this guy with tractors outside of his house, and I'm like, this guy must work on tractors. So I stop over at the guy's place, older gentleman. Bill, shout out to you, because he was the first guy that I had to go to and get the mechanical help. So he comes out to my house, and a fuel pump was bad on a lawnmower. And that's a reality when you're in this whole equipment realm. Maybe you know how to work on it yourself. And because I didn't, I started to structure a business where I paid someone else to then go ahead and do it. And so that was like this introduction to kind of figuring out the whole shop aspect. But what a different animal when you got a full commercial location, when you're trying to figure out profitability of a shop and having a service manager and all those sorts of things. So that's been this really big learning curve. And that's for me what's so exciting about having a dealership. It's what's exciting about new brands like Bad Boy, because you're trying to figure out how to win the game. I'm such a gamer. I try to figure out how to grow, you know, the business as a whole. And so that's the thing as well that I've sort of been figuring out. And when I was buying and selling used equipment, you see a couple of used ATVs, UTVs. We did a lot of used ATVs and UTVs, and we work on that sort of stuff in our shop as well. So like I said, learning the whole service side of stuff, that's been a really big learning curve. But with a dealership, you've got sales, and that was the part that I knew that, you know, definitely been good at, and I kind of stick to that side of the business as I work within it. You got service, and of course there's parts. We got a little parts hub back here, and there's so much that goes into parts or different things. You know, as you open a drawer in this little Toro section, and they got cabinets, you know, and there are bin locations, and there's inventory management and point of sale systems, and so much to keep up with in a dealership setting. And as we talk about, you know, again, the theme of this video, you talk about Bad Boy, that is a critical component to having a dealership you trust that is going to stock parts. So we have an inventory management system that tells us when we're below a minimum stocking level of a certain part. You know, for us, we got a whole belt wall up here, and you've got the Toro belts on the bottom, you've got the Bad Boy belts up here. When we go below a certain level of a common belt that we've got, then our system will ping us and tell us to order another belt. And this was just stuff that was not anything I'd ever thought of before. And then you've got all sorts of the elements of these common things, you know, from oil filters to oil to air filters, all sorts of stuff. And then we've got, you know, back in the bins that I was already at, you have your Toro section that continues to grow. And then I've got the same sort of thing. You got the Bad Boy section of carrying common things like sensors or just other things, key switches that could go. And as we go, and because we have a nice inventory management software, we are figuring out what are the things that you should stock. But then the other thing that's interesting, you think about dealerships, what you want in a dealer. This is really common right here, that you see a brand new mower that's got some parts off of it. Because when we have a commercial customer go down, or even a residential customer for that matter, if anything sort of happens, we got a mower to a customer and we found out that some point in how it was lifted, a forklift or something came up against the clutch and it bent just a little part of that clutch. And so we grabbed a new machine, and we pulled the clutch right off of it because we didn't have it in stock. So it turns into this parts machine until a brand new clutch is here that we'll put back on this machine. And I think we stole one other thing off of it. But when you think about selling in just 1 year, 250 mowers, and I think the first year it was just under 200 mowers. We got a lot of mowers out there. So stuff's gonna happen when you need parts. And we do our best to stock what you gotta have. But if we don't have it, I'm gonna pull it off of something to get someone on their way. And that's the type of quality I think you wanna look for with a dealer. And I talked about the whole warranty piece, you know, with Bad Boy. And this is the difference between maybe having a good warranty experience or bad. And not to say we're perfect. You know, there's situations where you got something longer than what you want. You gotta sort through grumblings of something that's going on in the shop. But you wanna have a dealer with the right attitude that doesn't leave you high and dry. And obviously that purebred focus on Bad Boy and what it's done for my dealership being the #1 brand. But as we started, 60% of our business is probably zero turn mowers. And it's such a focus. There are push mowers. I've got one there and I've got some others, and we'll sell that sort of stuff. But the focus and the thing that we market around really is more so around these zero turn mowers. And the first brand that we got of zero turn mowers, it was Toro. And I remember buying and selling a lot of used equipment and just being really impressed by Toro, and there was an opening in this area to pick them up. And they've been huge for us. And you think about such a difference in companies, Bad Boy being such a fast growing company, Toro, who's been around since 1914, what a vast parts network, what quality and how they make machines and warranties that they put behind them. And that's been a really good brand for us. But yeah, a lot of these qualities that I mentioned with Bad Boy, you can't deny some of the value aspect and some of the innovation aspect, and that's probably just why it's climbed as far as that #1 selling brand for us. And I walk across the showroom here, things like tools they're getting into. Toro does that as well, where they have 60 volt tools. Bad Boy's doing the 80 volt. And we also sell handheld equipment as well. So we've got Echo, they've got residential stuff, and then you eventually can go to probably the biggest claim to fame, a PV9010 blower, one of the strongest blowers on the market. So just tons of different things that we're doing here. You know, Bad Boy has risen to the top as that #1 brand, but last let's sit down in my office. And obviously at this point in the video, you guys have stuck with me as I've sort of gotten off the rails and back on a couple different times, clicking on this video thinking, well, Bad Boy's the #1 selling brand for what we've got and kind of that focus on Bad Boy. But I bring up a lot of that history because I think you got to look at a dealer's perspective on selling Bad Boy and why it has such success. And I think it's kind of important to see that whole picture as you take that in. And quite frankly, 2 years ago, when I picked up the brand of Bad Boy, it was a really uplifting part, kind of pulled our business that definitely had success and was doing real well, but it pulled us, I think, you know, to that next level in year 1, and I think it definitely did in year 2 as well. And so a lot of growth, and I've told you kind of that history of what's happened within me, within this dealership the last 6-7 years. And the next really big step for us sort of happened this year as well, but I bought a very prominent location in Jackson, and it's sort of been this whirlwind of emotion and waves and trying to grow at the right steps, because a lot of this business as I've grown it has been on a cash basis, and made a really bold, risky move of buying another piece of real estate. This other piece of real estate that I buy, it's in this absolute heart of Jackson, Michigan here, and it's right next to Lowe's, it's right next to Home Depot, it's across from the main shopping center, and expensive piece of real estate just to buy, but it's just a piece of land. So then I've got to go ahead and build on it, and I got to build on the success of what has happened here. But like I said, a lot of that's been more on a cash basis, and as I've continued to learn about this whole business side of stuff, growth sucks cash. So as you grow, it puts a little cash strain on the business. You can move really quick in business by using debt. People certainly do it when they're buying a lawnmower, you know, for their business or whatever that may be. It's no different for a dealer, that if you want to move quick, you can use debt. And one thing is, I've acquired this property and I've went into some of the plans. You know, this is where that location is. You probably see a nice graphic on the screen as to where we're talking about. But you look at how prominent a location this is around some of the big names right here in our local city. But I've been back and forth with the city, coming up with design plans or just different things, trying to figure out what that building might look like. I do feel myself settling into a lot more comfort to not pull the trigger right away and build this massive location and go too quick, because we've had a lot of stuff that's happened pretty quick. quite frankly, but it did not require tons and tons of risk. It required mostly a cash basis. And I look at, if I want to move as quick as possible to get the building that I think this needs in the future, it requires a fair bit of debt. So I kind of find myself leaning towards just holding off a little bit. You get real estate that appreciates, and the property that I bought used to have a movie theater on it. So you think about the prominence of location, the fact that it had a movie theater. They tear this thing down, and I make an offer on this at the point where the property taxes change vastly when it's commercial vacant land versus a really grandiose type structure like that. So with me sitting on it right now, it's not a crazy strain on the cash flow of this business, and real estate is appreciating. We want to continue to build this business and build the cash reserve back up to be able to do more of that project in cash and carrying tons of debt. So it kind of leads me to want to go that route, continue to ride this bad boy train, have that grow, have other brands add to it, but go deeper down in the brands that are working for me, which obviously Bad Boy is, and then get to that when the time is right, when there's a little bit less risk involved. And so tons of things, have changed for us, but you look at this dynamic relationship that we have with Bad Boy. Again, you're watching this because, marketing is such a forefront thought for what we do, and we really appreciate you guys that watch the channel. We've had people that, have visited us from hours away to buy a lawnmower because of checking out stuff we do on the channel. We have a delivery this weekend going out to Minnesota, someone buying a Bad Boy Rogue, and we had deliveries this year out to West Virginia and just all over the place. But it's really cool when we can have people, seems like more so to the Midwest region, that want to come and visit us and support, and it's you guys watching that allow this type of content to happen. We certainly appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate Bad Boy, what it's done for us as a whole. And for all these reasons that I've mentioned, Bad Boy has become, our #1 selling mower brand in conclusion. So keep watching the channel, keep seeing the Bad Boy stuff, keep seeing Toro, keep seeing trailer videos. We do a lot of different stuff. As always, we appreciate the support. And until the next video, we'll see you.